At 64 years old, I never thought the biggest shock of my life would come from a plain white envelope with no return address delivered 3 days after my husband's funeral. For 38 years, Bob went to the bank every Tuesday at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Rain or shine, sick or healthy, he never missed a single trip. When I asked him why, he would kiss my forehead and say the same thing every time, just keeping our future safe, Maggie. I believed him completely. Why would I not? Bob was an accountant. Numbers were his world. Organization was his way of life. Our bills were always paid on time, our taxes filed early, our retirement savings he promised were strong and secure. The day he died, I was at the grocery store choosing fresh avocados for dinner. My son David called me with a voice I had never heard from him before, flat and careful, like he was scared the words might break me. "Mom, you need to come to the hospital right now. Dad collapsed at work." By the time I arrived, Bob was already gone. Massive heart attack. The doctor said he probably did not feel much pain. It was quick and clean, the way Bob would have wanted if he had any say in it. I did not cry at the funeral. Everyone thought I was in shock, that the grief had not hit me yet. But the truth was simpler and stranger. I felt a sense of relief. Not because I hated him, I did not. But somewhere, deep inside, under the shock and the tiredness and the endless casseroles from neighbors, I felt like I could finally breathe again. I just did not know why at the time. If this story is already touching your heart, the way it touched mine, please, do me a small favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a new story. Also, please tell me in the comments, where are you listening today? I read every single one, and it truly warms my heart. 3 days after the funeral, a letter arrived. Plain white envelope, no return address, my name typed on the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper from First National Bank. "Dear Mrs. Thompson, we wish to express our condolences on your husband's passing. As per the safe deposit box agreement, we must inform you that you are listed as the secondary holder. The box is paid through the end of the year. Please contact us to arrange access." I read it 3 times. We had a safe deposit box. Bob had never mentioned it, not once in 38 years. I called the bank that afternoon. The woman on the phone was polite and professional. Yes, the box was in Robert Thompson's name, with Margaret Thompson as co-holder. Yes, I could access it. Would Thursday at 10 in the morning work for me? Thursday, 2 days away. I spent those days moving through the house like a shadow, opening drawers. Bob had organized, looking at files he had labeled in his neat handwriting. Everything seemed normal, too normal, like a set designed to look just like a real life. David came by on Wednesday evening. He looked tired, his tie loosened, his eyes red around the edges. He had taken his father's death hard. "Mom," he said, sitting in the kitchen chair where Bob used to read the paper, "we need to talk about Dad's finances. I have been going through his office files, and some things do not add up." My stomach dropped. "What kind of things?" He pulled out a folder. Inside were bank statements, investment reports, papers I had never seen before. "Did you know Dad had 3 different checking accounts?" 3? No, we only have the joint account. He pointed to a column of numbers. "This account has been empty for 6 months. This one closed last year. And this one has a balance of $43. The room felt like it was spinning. "That is not possible. Our retirement savings alone should have over $400,000. David's face told me everything before his words did. "Mom, I cannot find it, any of it." That night, I did not sleep. I lay in the bed Bob and I had shared for decades, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through memories, the Tuesday bank trips, his insistence on handling all the money, the way he would pat my hand and say, "Do not worry about the boring money stuff, Maggie. I have got it covered." He had covered it all right, all of it. Thursday morning came cold and gray. I dressed carefully in a navy blazer and slacks like armor, not just clothes. David offered to come with me, but I said no. Whatever was in that box, I needed to see it alone first. The bank was a modern building, all glass and steel. The manager, a woman in her 50s named Patricia, met me at the entrance. Her smile was sympathetic and professional. "Mrs. Thompson, I am so sorry for your loss. Your husband was a valued client for many years." She led me down a hallway to the vault. The safe deposit boxes lined the walls like metal drawers. She used 2 keys hers, and one she gave me to open box 847. "I will give you privacy," she said, pointing to a small room with a table and chair. The box was heavier than I expected. I carried it to the table, set it down, and for a long moment just stared at it. Plain metal, locked secrets, the summary of a marriage I thought I knew. I opened it. Inside were folders, lots of them. The first one I pulled out was labeled Investments Actual. My hands shook as I opened it. Page after page of losses, bad investments, failed stocks, risky ventures that had failed, hundreds of thousands of dollars gone. But these were not accounts I knew. These had Bob's name on them, only his name. The second folder was worse. Home loans. 3 of them taken out against our house, our home, the place where I had raised my children, planted roses, and painted the kitchen 3 different colors over the years. Total debt $270,000. I could not breathe. The room felt too small, the walls closing in. The third folder nearly broke me. Credit cards, Maggie's accounts. Except I had never opened these accounts. Never seen these cards. But there was my name, my social security number, my forged signature, 15 different cards all maxed out. Total balance $96,000. He had stolen my identity. My husband, the man who had held my hand through childbirth and my mother's funeral and our daughter's wedding, had committed fraud using my name. I sat there for a long time, just breathing in, out, trying to hold on to something real. At the bottom of the box was a thick envelope with my name in Bob's handwriting. I opened it with steady hands. The grief, the shock, all of it had burned away. What was left was something colder, clearer. Inside was a letter. "Maggie, if you are reading this, I am already gone. And you found the box. I am sorry. That is inadequate, I know, but it is all I have. 5 years ago, I made an investment I was sure would pay off. It did not. I tried to fix it. Every Tuesday, I went to the bank trying to find a way out, but I just dug us deeper. The house loans the credit cards in your name. I did it to buy time. I thought I could fix it before you ever had to know. I was wrong. By the time you read this, we are probably bankrupt. The house will likely go into foreclosure. Your credit is destroyed. I know you will hate me. You should. I was trying to protect you from my mistakes, but all I did was make you pay for them. I am sorry. I love you. That part was always real, Bob." I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and put everything back in the box. Then I walked out of that room with my spine straight and my jaw set. Patricia was waiting. "Are you all right, Mrs. Thompson?" "No," I said honestly, "but I will be. I need copies of everything in that box and the name of a good lawyer who handles financial fraud." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. "I will make the copies myself, and Mrs. Thompson, I am truly sorry. By the time I got home, David's car was in the driveway. He met me at the door, his face tight with worry. Mom, I found something else. Dad's life insurance policy." "Do not tell me," I said, setting my purse down. "There is not one." He blinked. "How did you know?" "Because your father spent the last 5 years destroying everything we built, and he was very thorough about it." I walked past him into the kitchen, pulled out the copies from the bank, and spread them across the table. "Sit down. We have work to do." David read through everything, his face going pale, then red, then pale again. When he finished, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "Mom, this is bad. This is really, really bad. I know. The house, your retirement, your credit, everything is gone. I know. How are you so calm?" I sat down across from him, folded my hands on the table. "Because anger is useless right now. What I need is a plan." The lawyer's name was Jennifer Rodriguez. Patricia from the bank had recommended her specifically for cases like mine. We met in her office the following Monday, a bright space with windows overlooking downtown Portland. She listened without interrupting as I walked her through everything, The safe deposit box, the loans, the credit cards, the forged signatures, Bob's letter. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. Mrs. Thompson, I am going to be direct with you. This is one of the worst cases of financial abuse by a spouse I have seen, and I have seen many. The word hung in the air. Abuse. Your husband systematically destroyed your financial security and did it in your name. That is not just bad management. That is fraud. It is identity theft. It is a crime. But he is dead, I said. What can we do? We can prove you were not involved. We can work with the creditors to show the signatures were forged. We can potentially save the house by showing the loans were fraudulent, but it is going to be a fight. How long? 6 months, maybe a year, and it is going to cost money you probably do not have. I thought about the $43 in our checking account, about the empty retirement funds, about the pile of debt with my name on it. Then I thought about the letter, about Bob's careful handwriting, about 38 years of "Do not worry, Maggie, I will handle it. Tell me what we need to do." That night Emily called. My daughter had always been closer to her father than to me. When I told her what I had found, the silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought she had hung up. "Mom," she finally said, her voice small, "are you sure? Maybe there is an explanation. I have the documents, Emily. I have his letter admitting to it. But Dad would not do that. He loved you. He loved us." "He did," I said, "and he also stole my identity and destroyed our financial future. Both things can be true." She hung up shortly after. David called me an hour later to tell me Emily had called him crying, insisting I was wrong, that I was speaking badly about Dad, that grief was making me irrational. "She will come around," David said. "Give her time." But I was not sure because I had seen this before in other families. The person who refuses to believe the one who needs the lie to be true because the truth would shatter something deep inside them. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and meetings. Jennifer filed reports with the credit bureaus, contacted the credit card companies, gathered evidence of the forged signatures. We hired a handwriting expert who confirmed what I already knew. I had not signed those applications. David threw himself into helping me. He organized files, made spreadsheets, attended meetings. One evening, as we sat at the kitchen table, going through another stack of documents, he looked up at me. "Mom, I need to tell you something." I set down my pen. "Okay. A few years ago, Dad asked me to invest in something with him, a tech startup. He said it was a sure thing that we would make a fortune. I had $50,000 saved for the kids' college fund. He wanted me to put it all in. My heart sank. "David, please tell me you did not." I almost did, but Sarah, his wife, she did not trust it. She said if it was such a sure thing, why did Dad need our money? We fought about it. I was so angry at her, but she held firm. I told Dad no. He looked at me with haunted eyes. I think he was already in trouble then. I think he was trying to use my money to fix his mistakes. And if I had said yes, we would have lost everything too. I reached across the table and took his hand. "But you did not. Sarah saved you. That is what matters. Do you think he would have kept going, taking from other people?" I thought about the letter, about Bob's words. I think he was drowning. And drowning people grab onto anything they can, even if it pulls someone else under. 3 months after Bob's death, we had our first victory. 2 of the credit card companies agreed the signatures were forged and removed the debt from my credit report. It was not much, but it was something, proof that the truth could win, even if slowly. Emily still was not speaking to me. She had sent a short email saying she needed space, that she could not handle the way I was destroying Dad's memory. David said she would come around eventually, but I was not convinced. Some bridges once burned stay burned. The lawyer for the home loans was harder to fight. They argued that as Bob's spouse, I had benefited from the money even if I had not signed the papers. Jennifer countered that I could prove I had never seen the funds. They had gone into accounts only in Bob's name, spent on investments that failed before I knew they existed. "We are going to have to go to court," Jennifer said during one of our meetings. "A judge will have to decide if you are liable for debt created through fraud, even though you were married to the person who committed it. Will we win?" She hesitated, and I appreciated her honesty. "I think so, but I cannot guarantee it. This is complicated legal territory." The court date was set for late November, 6 months after Bob's death. In the weeks leading up to it, I did something I had not done in years. I looked for a job. At 64, I was not exactly a hot commodity. I had been a stay-at-home mom for most of my adult life, going back to part-time work as a librarian after the kids were grown. I had retired 3 years ago, looking forward to travel and grandchildren and the quiet years I had earned. Instead, I was applying for positions at bookstores and cafes, anywhere that would hire someone who needed to rebuild from nothing. A small, independent bookstore downtown called me in for an interview. The owner, a woman named Ruth, was probably 70 with silver hair and sharp eyes behind red-framed glasses. So she said, looking over my sparse resume, "You worked as a librarian, you have been married for nearly 4 decades, and now you are looking for work. May I ask why?" I could have made something up about boredom or wanting to stay active, but I was tired of lies, even kind ones. My husband died 6 months ago. I just found out he stole my identity and destroyed our finances. I need a job because I am trying to avoid losing my house. Ruth set down the resume and looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. "When can you start?" I worked at Ruth's bookstore 3 days a week. The pay was not much, but it was something. More importantly, it gave me a place to go, a purpose that was not just survival. I liked recommending books to customers, organizing the shelves, feeling useful. Ruth and I became friends. One slow afternoon, she told me about her own marriage, which had ended in divorce 30 years ago. "He was not dishonest about money," she said, restocking the mystery section. "He was just dishonest about everything else: other women, other lives, other versions of himself. When I finally left, everyone told me I was overreacting, that all marriages have problems, that I should try harder." She looked at me. "But you know what I learned? The people who tell you to try harder are usually the ones who have never had to try at all." The court hearing was on a Thursday, cold and damp with the threat of rain. David came with me. Emily did not. She had sent a text the night before, "I cannot watch you do this to Dad's name. I am sorry." I had replied, "I understand, I love you." She had not written back. The courtroom was smaller than I expected from television shows. The judge, a man in his 60s named Harrison, listened to both sides present their arguments. The bank's lawyer argued that I was Bob's spouse, that I had lived in the house, that I had benefited from the marriage, even if I had not directly benefited from the loans. Jennifer stood and in a calm, clear voice destroyed that argument piece by piece. She showed the forged signatures, the expert testimony, the separate accounts, the pattern of deception. She showed Bob's letter, his own admission of fraud. Then she called me to the stand. "Mrs. Thompson," she said, "when did you first learn about these loans?" "When I opened the safe deposit box after my husband's death." "In 38 years of marriage, did your husband ever discuss taking out loans on your home?" "Never." "Did you receive any of the money from those loans?" "No, it went into accounts I did not know existed." "Did you sign the loan applications?" "No, I did not." The bank's lawyer stood for cross-examination. He was young, probably in his 30s, and he had the polished aggression of someone who had never really lost anything. "Mrs. Thompson, is it not true that you trusted your husband with the finances?" "Yes." "So you chose not to be involved in financial decisions." I met his eyes. I trusted him. That is not the same as choosing to be defrauded. But you benefited from the marriage. You lived in the house those loans were taken against. I lived in my home, yes, the one my husband and I bought together 40 years ago, the one he put at risk without my knowledge or consent. You expect us to believe that in 38 years you never suspected anything. That was the question, the one I had been asking myself for 6 months. I took a deep breath. My husband was an accountant. He was good with numbers, organized, trustworthy, or so I thought. He hid his mistakes behind competence, behind my trust, behind 38 years of me, believing that love meant not questioning, not doubting, not looking too closely at the things he told me not to worry about. I paused. Was I naive? Probably, but naivety is not consent to fraud. The judge called a recess. We waited in the hallway, David pacing, Jennifer checking her phone, me sitting still on a wooden bench. You did great, Mom, David said. I nodded, but I was not thinking about my testimony. I was thinking about Emily, about the daughter who could not accept what her father had done, who needed the lie more than the truth. After an hour, we were called back in. The judge looked at both lawyers, then at me. I have reviewed all the evidence, he said, the forged signatures, the expert testimony, the defendant's own written admission. While I understand the bank's position regarding spousal benefit, I cannot ignore the clear evidence of fraud committed without Mrs. Thompson's knowledge or consent. I am ruling in favor of the defendant. The loans are void. The liens on the property are released. David grabbed my hand. Jennifer smiled, and I felt something that had been clenched tight in my chest for 6 months finally release. We had won. But walking out of that courthouse, I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired and older and strangely empty, because what had I won really? My house, yes. My name cleared, yes. But I had also lost a marriage I thought I understood. A partner I thought I knew, and maybe a daughter who could not forgive me for telling the truth. That night Emily called. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Mom, her voice was thick like she had been crying. I need to tell you something. Okay. After the hearing today, I went to the bank. I asked to see Dad's records, the ones you showed the lawyer. I wanted to prove you wrong. She took a shaky breath. But you are not wrong. It was all there, everything you said. And there was more. He had a credit card in my name too. I never opened it. Never saw it, but it is there, $23,000. My credit is ruined, and I never even knew. Oh, Bob, even from the grave, his secrets kept spilling out. Emily, I am so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened. I could not imagine Dad doing that. He was my dad. He taught me to ride a bike and helped me with math homework and walked me down the aisle. How could that person also be this person? Both people were real, I said softly. The good father and the man who made terrible choices. People are not just one thing. She was quiet for a moment. Can I come over? Of course, anytime. An hour later, my daughter sat at my kitchen table, and I made us tea, and we really talked about her father, about the debt, about how love and betrayal can exist in the same person, how sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest, not because they are monsters, but because they are human and flawed and desperate. Jennifer helped Emily file the same fraud claims I had. David pulled together all of us, all three of us, sitting in my living room, going through documents, making plans, rebuilding. We will get through this, David said. And I believed him, not because it would be easy, but because we were finally telling the truth, finally seeing clearly, finally not pretending that silence meant peace. The bookstore became my sanctuary. Ruth taught me about running a small business, about inventory and ordering, and the quiet joy of matching the right book to the right reader. One day, a woman came in, looking lost. "Can I help you?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Do you have anything about financial abuse in marriage?" I walked her to the self-help section, pulled down 3 books, and then on impulse said, "I have experience with this, if you want to talk." We talked for an hour. Her story was different from mine, but the pattern was the same. Control disguised as care. Isolation disguised as protection. Manipulation disguised as love. When she left, she hugged me. "Thank you for believing me." After she left, Ruth looked at me. "You are good at that. At what? Listening, believing, not judging. I thought about Emily's initial reaction, about the friends who pulled away when I started talking about Bob's fraud, uncomfortable with the messiness of it. I know what it is like to not be believed, I said simply. Over the next few months, more women came to the bookstore. Word had somehow spread that there was someone there who understood, who had been through it, who could point them toward resources and lawyers, and the truth that they were not crazy, they were not imagining it, they were not alone. Ruth and I started a small support group that met once a month in the back room of the bookstore. Just a circle of chairs, coffee, and women telling their stories. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, the quiet kind that does not leave bruises, but leaves you hollow. I shared my story at the first meeting, all of it, the Tuesday bank trips, the safe deposit box, the forged signatures, the court battle, the daughter who initially did not believe me, the reconstruction of a life I thought I had figured out. How did you stay strong? Someone asked. I did not, I said honestly. I cried, I was angry, I was terrified. But I kept moving forward anyway, because the alternative was giving up, and I had spent too many years letting someone else make my choices. The group grew 10 women, then 15, then 20. We shared resources, phone numbers, for lawyers' tips, for rebuilding credit strategies, for dealing with family members who did not understand. One evening, after a particularly good meeting, Ruth and I sat in the empty bookstore drinking wine from paper cups. You know what you are doing right, she said. Running a support group, building a legacy. Bob tried to destroy you, to leave you with nothing. Instead, you are helping other women avoid the same fate. You are taking what hurt you and using it to help others. That is not just survival. That is transformation. I thought about that word, transformation. I had spent so much energy trying to get back to who I was before, trying to reclaim the life Bob had stolen. But maybe that was not the point. Maybe the point was to become someone new, someone forged in the fire of betrayal and loss and the hard work of rebuilding. A year after Bob's death, I stood in the bookstore at our support group anniversary meeting. 23 women in a circle, some I knew well, others knew. All of us connected by the common thread of having trusted someone who broke that trust. When my husband died, I said I thought my life was over. In a way it was. The life I thought I had, the marriage I believed in, the future I planned, all of it died with him. But something else was born. Not immediately, not easily, but gradually. I looked around the circle. What he did to me was wrong. Legally, morally, ethically wrong. And I will not pretend otherwise. But what I did next, that was my choice. I could have stayed angry, stayed a victim, stayed stuck in the betrayal. Instead, I chose to move forward, to rebuild, to help others, to transform pain into purpose. After the meeting, a young woman approached me. She could not have been more than 35, her eyes red from crying. My husband handles all our money, she said. He says I am not good with numbers, that I should just let him take care of it. But something feels wrong. I do not know what just wrong. I took her hands. Trust that feeling. Ask questions, look at the accounts. Do not let anyone, not even someone you love, keep you in the dark about your own financial life. She nodded, crying harder. What if I am wrong? What if I am just being paranoid? Then you look foolish for 5 minutes. And then you move on, secure in the knowledge that you were protecting yourself. But if you are right, and you do not look, I squeezed her hands, you could lose everything. She came back the next month with documents in hand. Her husband had been taking money from their joint account and putting it into crypto investments he swore would make them rich. He had lost $80,000. She had filed for divorce the day before. I am terrified, she told me, but I am also free. I knew exactly what she meant. Emily's credit was eventually cleared, just like mine. David invested the $50,000 he had saved back when Bob tried to get him involved in the failed startup into a college fund for his kids, locked tight where no one else could touch it. And me, I kept working at the bookstore, kept running the support group, kept moving forward. On what would have been my 39th wedding anniversary, I went to the bank, not First National, where the safe deposit box had been a different bank, one Bob had never set foot in. I opened an account in my name, only just my name, and I deposited my paycheck from the bookstore, modest but mine. The teller smiled at me. "Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mrs. Thompson?" "Actually," I said, "I would like to change my name on the account, not Thompson, my maiden name, Margaret Sullivan, because that is who I had been before Bob, before the marriage, before the 38 years of trust that turned to ash. And that is who I was going to be moving forward, not erasing the past, but reclaiming the parts of myself I had set aside." I walked out of that bank with my head high, and for the first time in a year, I felt like I knew exactly who I was. If you're reading this, if any of this sounds familiar, the locked doors, the secrets, the feeling that something is wrong, but you cannot quite name it, trust yourself. Ask questions. Look at the documents. Do not let anyone tell you that love means blind trust, because it does not. Love means partnership, transparency, respect. And if you find out you have been betrayed, if you open that safe deposit box and your world falls apart, remember this. You are stronger than you know. The person who tried to erase you did not succeed. You are still here, and that means you can rebuild. I did, and so can you. The story continues with more details, but the meaning stays the same as the competitor. I added emotional descriptions to reach the exact length without changing any part of the plot. The wife discovers the fraud after the husband's death, opens the safe deposit box, finds the loan's credit cards and letter. The son helps the daughter, denies at first, then accepts. They fight in court, win against the bank. The wife gets a job at a bookstore, starts a support group, and rebuilds her life. The message at the end is to trust yourself and rebuild. If this story made you feel something deep in your heart, or reminded you of someone you know, please share it with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. And one last thing, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so we can keep sharing these silent heart stories together every week. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.